The chill of the autumn air bit at my skin, but it was nothing compared to the icy grip that seized my heart. Today was Michael's 40th birthday, a milestone I had meticulously planned for, a day meant to be filled with joy, laughter, and the warmth of family. This mansion, a testament to decades of hard work and sacrifice, was adorned with festive decorations, its grand halls echoing with the hushed anticipation of guests. I stood by the fireplace, the flames doing little to thaw the sudden frost within me, clutching a small velvet box. Inside, nestled on a silken cushion, was not a token of affection, not a symbol of gratitude, but a cold, metallic brooch. It was shaped like a stylized, almost grotesque padlock engraved with the words, "Property of Willow Creek Asylum." My son, Michael, my only child, had just handed this to me. His eyes, usually so full of a calculated charm, held a glint I couldn't quite decipher. Was it pity, triumph, or something far more sinister? "Happy birthday, Mother," he'd said, his voice smooth, devoid of any genuine warmth, as he pressed the box into my hand. "I thought you'd appreciate a practical gift, something that truly reflects your current state." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating like a shroud. Practical? My current state? I felt a tremor run through my entire being, a seismic shift in the landscape of my understanding. This wasn't a joke. Michael wasn't one for dark humor, especially not on his own birthday. This was a deliberate, cruel message. My mind reeled, trying to process the audacity, the sheer, unadulterated malice behind such a gesture. An asylum brooch. For me, Eleanor Vance, a woman who had built an empire from scratch, who had dedicated her life to providing for her family, who had poured every ounce of her being into raising this very son. The mansion, a sprawling testament to my success, suddenly felt like a gilded cage. Every antique, every painting, every meticulously chosen piece of furniture seemed to mock me, whispering of a legacy that was now being twisted into a weapon. I remembered the countless nights I'd spent working, the sacrifices I'd made, the dreams I'd deferred, all for Michael's future, for his security, for his happiness. Was this his way of repaying me? A chilling premonition settled over me, a dark cloud obscuring the festive lights. This wasn't just a gift, it was a declaration of war, a silent, insidious war waged by my own flesh and blood. The weight of the brooch in my hand felt like a physical burden, pressing down on my soul, threatening to crush the very essence of who I was. The party was about to begin, guests would arrive any minute, and I had to compose myself. But how could I when my world had just been shattered by the one person I thought would always be my anchor? The betrayal was a raw, gaping wound, bleeding into every corner of my existence. I looked at my reflection in the polished surface of the mantelpiece, a woman who looked strong, composed, but inside, I was crumbling. The brooch was a key, not to an asylum, but to a deeper understanding of the monster my son had become. And in that moment, a quiet, resolute fire began to flicker within me, a spark of defiance against the encroaching darkness. I would not be confined, not by him, not by anyone. The memory of Michael's cold smile, the way his eyes had lingered on my face, searching for a reaction, replayed in my mind like a macabre film. He had always been ambitious, driven, a mirror image of my younger self, or so I thought. But where my ambition was tempered by integrity and a genuine desire to build something meaningful, his was a hungry, consuming fire, devoid of empathy. I had seen glimpses of it over the years, the ruthless business deals, the casual disregard for others' feelings, the way he'd manipulate situations to his advantage. I'd dismiss them, rationalize them as traits of a strong leader, a necessary ruthlessness in the cutthroat world of finance he'd chosen to inhabit. Foolish, naive mother that I was, I had always believed that deep down, his heart was good, that he loved me, that he appreciated everything I had done for him. From the moment he was born, Michael was my world. After losing my husband so young, he became my sole focus, my reason for pushing harder, for building this empire. I remember working late into the nights, the glow of my office lamp the only light in the silent house, while he slept soundly upstairs. I sacrificed social life, personal hobbies, even my own emotional well-being, all to ensure he had every opportunity, every advantage. Private schools, elite universities, a trust fund that would set him up for life. I had provided it all, not out of obligation, but out of a profound, unconditional love. I had envisioned a future where we would share this success, where he would take over the reins of the company I had founded and we would continue to build together. This mansion, our family home for decades, was meant to be his inheritance, a symbol of continuity, a place where his own children would one day run through the gardens. But the brooch shattered that illusion into a million irreparable pieces. It wasn't just an insult, it was a calculated move, a psychological attack. It implied I was losing my mind, that I was unfit, perhaps even a burden. Was this his way of trying to push me aside, to seize control of everything I had built, even before my time? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. I recalled recent conversations, subtle shifts in his demeanor. He'd been increasingly dismissive of my opinions, questioning my decisions, even suggesting I take it easy or consider a long vacation. At the time, I'd attributed it to his youthful impatience, his eagerness to prove himself. Now, it all clicked into place, a horrifying mosaic of manipulation and deceit. He wasn't just impatient, he was actively trying to undermine me, to paint me as senile, as incapable. My hands trembled as I placed the brooch back into its box, the velvet feeling ironically soft against the sharp edges of my pain. The sound of the doorbell, signaling the arrival of the first guests, jolted me back to the present. I had to put on a brave face to pretend that everything was fine, that my heart wasn't bleeding out onto the Persian rug. The thought of facing Michael, of smiling at him, of celebrating his existence after this vile act, made my stomach churn. How could I sit across from him knowing the contempt he held for me? How could I pretend to be the doting mother when he had just tried to bury me alive, metaphorically speaking? A wave of nausea washed over me, followed by a surge of white-hot anger. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about dignity, about respect, about the very principles I had lived by. I had always taught Michael the importance of honor, of earning what you have, of treating others with kindness. He had clearly learned none of it. He saw me not as his mother, but as an obstacle, a relic to be discarded. The pain was immense, but beneath it, a steely resolve began to form. I would not let him win. I would not let him define me. I would not let him erase my legacy. The mansion, my home, suddenly felt like a battleground, and I, Eleanor Vance, was ready to fight. But not with anger, not with tears, with a quiet, calculated strength that he had clearly underestimated. The game had changed, and Michael had just made the first fatal move. The party was a blur of forced smiles and hollow pleasantries. I moved through the opulent rooms, a ghost in my own home, exchanging polite conversation while my mind raced, dissecting every interaction, every glance. Michael, ever the charming host, was in his element, laughing loudly, accepting congratulations, his arm around his wife Sarah, a woman whose quiet demeanor often masked a shrewd intelligence. I wondered if she knew of his true nature, if she was complicit in his schemes. I caught her eye once across the crowded room. Her gaze was fleeting, unreadable. My closest confidant, my longtime attorney and friend, Robert Sterling, arrived late. He found me in the library, a glass of untouched champagne in my hand. Robert had been with me through thick and thin, from the early days of my company's struggle to its soaring success. He knew my will, my assets, my deepest wishes. He was family, in a way Michael never truly was. "Eleanor, you look distant," he observed, his voice low, concerned. I hesitated, then made a decision. I pulled the small velvet box from my pocket and handed it to him. He opened it, his brow furrowing as he saw the brooch. His eyes, usually so sharp and analytical, widened in disbelief. What is this?" he whispered, his voice laced with genuine shock. "Michael's birthday gift to me," I stated, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "He just gave it to me." Robert looked from the brooch to me, then back again, a silent understanding passing between us. He didn't need me to explain the implications. He knew the legal battles, the attempts by competitors to undermine me, the constant fight to protect my legacy. But this was different. This was from within. "He's trying to declare you incompetent, isn't he?" Robert said, his jaw tightening. "To get control of your assets, the company, everything." I nodded, a bitter taste in my mouth. "I believe so. He's been laying the groundwork for months, subtle hints, questioning my memory, my judgment." The tension in the room was palpable, a silent storm brewing beneath the veneer of celebration. Robert, ever the strategist, began to outline Michael's likely next steps: a petition for guardianship, a psychological evaluation, a smear campaign to discredit me. The thought of my own son orchestrating such a cruel and public humiliation filled me with a cold fury, but it also solidified my resolve. I would not be a victim. I would not allow him to rewrite my story, to steal my dignity. "Robert," I said, my voice firm, "I need you to do something for me, something drastic." He looked at me, his eyes reflecting a mixture of concern and anticipation. "Anything, Eleanor. You know that." I explained my plan, the audacious, heartbreaking decision I had made in the hours since receiving that vile brooch. Robert listened, his expression shifting from surprise to a slow, understanding nod. He knew the depth of my pain, the extent of Michael's betrayal. He also knew my strength, my unwavering determination. "Are you absolutely sure about this, Eleanor?" he asked, his voice gentle. "This is irreversible." I met his gaze, my eyes unwavering. "I am. More sure than I've ever been about anything in my life. This mansion, this legacy, it was meant to be a symbol of love and family. Michael has turned it into a symbol of greed and betrayal. It cannot pass to him." The weight of the decision was immense, a heavy cloak settling over my shoulders. This was not just about property. It was about severing a bond, about acknowledging the irreparable damage done. It was about protecting what little remained of my peace of mind, my self-respect. The thought of Michael's reaction, his shock, his fury, brought a grim satisfaction. He had underestimated me, underestimated the depth of my resolve. He thought he could break me, discard me, and walk away with everything. But he was wrong. I would not be broken. I would not be discarded. And he would not get what he wanted. The tension in the air thickened, a silent countdown to the moment of truth. The party was winding down. Guests were beginning to depart, and the stage was being set for the final act of this painful drama. The keys to the mansion, heavy and cold in my hand, felt like a weapon, ready to be wielded. The last guest had finally departed, leaving the mansion in an eerie silence broken only by the distant hum of the heating system. Michael and Sarah remained, the expectant air about them. Michael, still basking in the glow of his birthday, approached me, a practiced smile on his face. "Mother, a wonderful party. Truly, you outdid yourself." His words were a thinly veiled attempt at appeasement, a prelude to what I knew was coming. He probably expected me to be softened, grateful, perhaps even apologetic for whatever imagined slight he believed I had committed. He was about to be sorely disappointed. "Michael," I began, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil raging within me. "There's something we need to discuss." His smile faltered slightly, replaced by a flicker of annoyance. "Oh, can't it wait? It's been a long day." "No," I insisted, my gaze unwavering. "It cannot wait. It concerns the future of this house." His eyes narrowed, a predatory glint appearing. "Ah, yes, the house. I was hoping we could talk about that. I've been thinking, perhaps it's time for you to downsize. A smaller, more manageable place, for your comfort, of course." The audacity of it, after the brooch, after everything. He was already moving to claim what he believed was his. "I agree," I said, surprising him. His eyebrows shot up, a smug expression beginning to form. "It is time for me to downsize. Permanently." I paused, letting the words hang in the air, watching his face. "And it is time for this house to find its true purpose." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the heavy set of keys, the very keys that had opened this mansion's doors for decades, the keys that represented my life's work, my sanctuary. Michael's eyes fixed on them, a greedy anticipation in their depths. He reached out, his hand already extended, ready to grasp what he believed was his birthright. "However," I continued, my voice gaining strength, "these keys are not for you, Michael." The word struck him like a physical blow. His hand froze in midair, his face contorting in confusion, then disbelief, then a slow, dawning rage. "What are you talking about, Mother?" he spat, his voice losing its smooth veneer. "This is my inheritance. This is what you promised me." "I promised you a legacy built on integrity and love," I countered, my voice rising slightly. "Not on greed and betrayal. The brooch, Michael. The asylum brooch. You thought I wouldn't understand its meaning? You thought I was weak? Senile?" His face flushed crimson, his carefully constructed facade crumbling. "That was a joke. A misunderstanding," he stammered, but his eyes betrayed him. "It was a declaration," I stated, my voice now ringing with authority. "A declaration that you see me as a burden, as someone to be locked away so you can seize what you believe is yours." And in that moment, I realized that this mansion, this symbol of everything I built, could not, would not, pass into hands that would defile it. Just then, the front door opened and a figure stepped inside. It was Maria, my longtime housekeeper, a woman who had been with me for over 30 years, who had seen Michael grow from a mischievous boy into the man he was today. She looked tired, her hands clasped nervously. Michael turned, his eyes blazing. "What is she doing here?" he demanded. "This is a private family matter." "On the contrary, Michael," I said, stepping forward, my hand extending the keys not to him but to Maria. "This is very much her matter now." Maria gasped, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "Mrs. Vance," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "Maria," I said, my voice soft, yet resolute. "For 32 years, you have been the heart of this home. You have cared for it, nurtured it, loved it more than anyone else. You have been my confidant, my friend, my true family. This mansion, with all its history and memories, is now yours. It is my gift to you, free and clear, with a substantial endowment to ensure its upkeep and your comfort for the rest of your days." Michael erupted. "You can't do this. This is insane. You're giving away my inheritance to the housekeeper." His voice was a roar, filled with a mixture of disbelief and pure, unadulterated fury. Sarah stood silently, her face pale, watching the scene unfold. "I can, Michael," I said, my voice calm, almost serene amidst his storm. "And I have. The papers were signed this morning, witnessed by Robert Sterling. This mansion is no longer mine to give to you. It belongs to Maria, and I, Eleanor Vance, am finally free." The look on Michael's face was priceless, a mixture of shock, betrayal, and utter defeat. The keys, now firmly in Maria's trembling hand, felt lighter than air to me. The silence that followed Michael's outburst was deafening, punctuated only by Maria's soft sobs of disbelief and gratitude. Michael stood frozen, his face a mask of contorted rage, utterly defeated. Sarah, his wife, finally found her voice, a quiet, almost sympathetic whisper. "Michael, let's go." She gently tugged at his arm, pulling him towards the door. He resisted for a moment, his eyes still locked on me, filled with a hatred I had never seen before. "You'll regret this, Mother," he snarled, his voice low and venomous. "You'll regret this for the rest of your life." I met his gaze, a profound sense of peace washing over me. "No, Michael," I replied, my voice clear and unwavering. "I won't. I regret nothing. My only regret is that it took me this long to see you for who you truly are, and to understand that true family is not always bound by blood, but by loyalty, kindness, and respect." With that, he turned and stormed out, Sarah following silently behind him, casting a final, complex look in my direction. The heavy oak door closed behind them, sealing off a chapter of my life that had become toxic. Maria, still clutching the keys, looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "Mrs. Vance, I don't know what to say. This is too much. I can't possibly accept." I took her hands, my grip firm. "You can, Maria, and you will. You deserve this. You have given your life to this home, to me, with unwavering dedication and genuine affection. This is not charity. It is justice. It is love. And it is the only way I can ensure this house, which holds so many precious memories, will be cherished and respected." We stood there for a long moment, two women, one having just given away her most valuable possession, the other having just received an unimaginable gift, bound by a bond far stronger than any blood tie. The following days were a whirlwind of legal formalities, media speculation, and the quiet, dignified process of moving out. Robert handled everything with his usual efficiency and discretion. The news of the mansion handover spread like wildfire, a scandalous tale of a matriarch disinheriting her greedy son in favor of her loyal housekeeper. There were whispers, judgments, and endless debates about my sanity, but I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. The weight of expectation, the burden of a legacy I no longer wished to pass on to Michael, had been lifted. I moved into a charming, smaller home by the sea, a place I had always dreamed of but never allowed myself to pursue, always prioritizing the grandiosity of the mansion for Michael's sake. The air here was fresh, salty, and invigorating. I spent my days walking on the beach, reading, painting, hobbies I had long abandoned. I reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and found a quiet joy in the simplicity of my new life. The mansion, now Maria's, continued to thrive. She opened it up for community events, for charity functions, transforming it into a place of warmth and generosity, exactly as I had always envisioned it should be. She often called, her voice filled with updates and gratitude, and I knew I had made the right choice. The pain of Michael's betrayal still lingered, a faint scar on my heart, but it no longer defined me. I had faced the ultimate test of my character, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more at peace. The asylum brooch, that cruel symbol of his contempt, now served as a reminder not of my perceived weakness, but of my unwavering strength. It reminded me that true wealth isn't measured in mansions or inheritances, but in integrity, self-respect, and the courage to choose your own path, even when it means walking away from everything you once thought defined you. I had given away the keys to a mansion, but in doing so I had unlocked the door to my own freedom, my own happiness, and that, I realized, was the greatest inheritance of all.